Hey, what's up, girlfriend?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm excited to talk about this with you. Do you want to just like tell a little bit about yourself and before we start?
Yeah, sure. My name's Larisa Nicole. I have a YouTube channel called Larisa Nicole on Purpose. I am a coach as well as an astrologer. I use astrology as a tool to help people go deeper into the essence of who they are and connect to the truth of who they are. Yeah, and I am a human being having this spiritual experience along with everyone else.
Amazing. Yeah, and Larissa and I met through like we have the same coach. So we both do and have done this inner work and are still, on this spiritual healing journey. And it's been really beautiful to connect with you and be able to like relate to you about this because
Likewise.
it is a journey. But yeah, I brought you on here today because I really want to talk about boundaries.
Mm,
I want to talk about like there's so much I guess hype and there's a lot of talk about boundaries these days. Like personal boundaries and like the boundaries that we have in our relationships with people, how to set boundaries and all these things. But what I don't hear a lot about is the inner parts of that and like how our feelings are affected when we're doing these things and how we're treating ourselves when we're actually like setting these boundaries and kind of the inner parts and the inner workings of that. So I think like what I want to do is like ask you like what do you consider using like because people say like healthy boundaries, like what
mm.
do you consider healthy boundaries and like can you give me an example of like how you set these in your life or how you've used them.
Yeah, for me, it's really simple. I feel, in popular culture, boundaries are really used as a way to keep other people out of our lives, people that we deem to not be on our level, to not be awake, to be, asleep, if you will. So we put up these boundaries to keep them away from us. So it protects our energy. But I see boundaries, healthy boundaries, working just the opposite in that they really are a way for us to connect more deeply to ourselves. So the way that I use boundaries is I have a boundary that says I will not disconnect from myself for anyone else. So that means that it doesn't matter who the person is, it doesn't matter what the energy is, especially if it's somebody that a family member, someone that I'm very close to, or just people that are in my life in general. Like I can have them in my space without losing that connection to myself if I have a healthy boundary that says that my connection to me comes first and foremost. So then there's never an issue with having to shut them out. I'm
Mhm.
just staying connected to me. So, I'll give you an example of how boundaries did not work for me. Boundaries actually created a rift between my relationship with my father for almost 20 years because I felt, well, he's behaving in a certain way. So my boundary is that I just won't, I'll keep my distance. And well, then I thought that was a way of like protecting my energy and keeping myself safe and not having to deal with whatever he had going on in his life. It actually kept me shut off from receiving and giving love to and from my dad for many, many, many years. And so, what healed that and the work that we've done, with our coach was really understanding that the boundary that I was setting against him was keeping me from receiving love, and that if I just stayed connected to me and if I loved myself, then I would bring all of me to my connection with my dad, and I would be able to say the things I needed to say, and I would be able to express myself in the way that I needed to express myself and ask for the things that I needed versus just saying, "Oh, there's a boundary because he's not showing up this way." So that's been the biggest lesson for me is that the boundary is to never disconnect from myself.
And so when you had these, you were holding this boundary with your dad, were you aware of how it was making you feel to do that?
No, no, I disassociated from that feeling. Every now and again, I'd have a moment where I'd be like, oh, my dad. Um, but I wasn't aware. The other thing I wasn't aware of is how it impacted all of the choices that I was making when it came to relationships and connections with men, is like not purposely having that divide from the man that I'm connected to, how that was impacting some of the decisions that I was making. And that I wasn't aware of. Uh yeah, I was very brick wall, like, we'll connect, I'll talk to my dad, and, like, we'll see each other every now and again, we'll talk every now and again. But he had made his choice, and so in my mind he wasn't choosing me. So I was like, okay, well, whatever, I'll go and choose me by not choosing him, which makes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Um so
Yeah,
so to
I
answer your
think
question, no, it wasn't.
I think the perception is that like, oh, as long as I keep that person at bay, then I'm
Yeah.
setting a healthy boundary for myself.
Yes.
But what's happening is that people are not aware of what that and what their choices are doing inwards, because we live in a society that we all live in our minds. Like so
Mhm.
many people are disconnected from the feeling, and we are the feeling. So
Mhm.
everything that you feel is you. So when you're setting these boundaries with your dad, and it's like we're not aware of what's going on inward, but internally, like just when you were like talking about it, I could feel, that like tension inside.
Mhm.
And it's like
Mhm.
that's you. Like that is happening to you, and
Right.
regardless of what your dad is doing or what the situation is, that's what I want to focus on. And
Yeah. Yeah, so that's not an issue
mm,
at this juncture.
yeah.
It was for many years. Again, like, this has been a long road, a long healing road and journey for me. And healing that relationship with my dad was a really big part of it, which led into healing a lot of the broken relationship that I had with my mom. And all of this came after they split when I was, I guess fairly young, 15 years old. But yeah, like, I can tap back into that energy very, very easily because I was in it for so long. And so I know the tension, the frustration that I felt. Now, and again, like, it's not like it doesn't well up, but now the way that I partner with that energy is to say, okay, I'm feeling this thing, rather than push it down and not speak about it. Let me reach out to my dad and just say, hey, dad, I'm feeling some things. Can I talk to you about it?
Yeah.
But that was not something that I was able to do, back in my, late teens, early 20s, 30s. It wasn't until I would say a couple years ago that I came into that ability to do that. And it's transferred into all of my relationships and connections, is that, like, okay, when I'm feeling something, like, first sitting with that feeling and then saying, hey, I'm feeling some things, can I talk to you about what I'm feeling and about what I'm saying to myself, and convincing myself the feeling is about. So that's the other thing, is like really owning owning your feelings. So yeah, I think, when we talk about what's happening in popular culture, is that there's a lack of accountability
Mhm.
for what we're feeling. It's like, one thing, we're not feeling what we're feeling, and then when we feel what we feel, we don't take accountability for it. We blame other people for the feeling.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, and I think we're so quick to blame because we're judging how we feel, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I don't want to feel this way. Like, it's because of them. And then it's like nothing happens with that feeling. It stays stagnant. And then you keep that distance between that person. I mean, like, I have a similar thing with my mom. Like, growing up, had a difficult relationship with her. And as I grew a little bit older, it was like, oh yeah, I trying to set boundaries and like
yeah.
keep her at a distance and, not say yes to her whenever she needed something, but like that never made me feel better. Let's be
Right.
real, like for me, setting those boundaries with her, I still felt like shit. I still felt guilt. I still felt shame. And so it was like, no matter what I did on the outside, if I wasn't paying attention and giving myself the love that I needed, then I wasn't getting it at all. And
Yeah.
like even if she would show me love, I wouldn't even see it because I was so busy keeping her at bay, not letting her in, keeping her away from me to stay safe from her,
Hmm. Hmm.
that I wasn't even being loved. And
Hmm.
so it wasn't until, we like I did this healing, with our coach and everything and going deeper and deeper that I realized like she can't give me this.
Hmm.
Like I have to be the one to say like to love myself there where I never felt love because I've spent so many years blocking her out or blocking whatever out that I was afraid of that would hurt me, things like that. But when we focus deeper on the actual feeling, like the feeling is an abstract thing. And because we're abstract. Like we're if you go really deep, I mean, we're a spark of light, right? Like, so to I don't know, protect that seems like it doesn't actually make any sense because really what we're doing is just blocking that from like showing through us. So then yeah, so I wanted to ask you another question.
Yeah, that's
Do you protect yourself from being loved?
do I? Of course I do. I'm human. The difference is that now I'm able to see myself or catch myself when I'm doing that. I'm also able to receive when someone else who's able to see into me can catch me doing that.
Mm,
And the reason I answer that way is because if I sit here and say, no, I don't do that, of course not. Like that would be complete BS. Like I'm human. I have these wounds and they're wounds that we tend to and that we treat. I see them as like our shadow selves, right? They're parts of our shadow self. And they're always a part of us, but the goal is to bring them into the light
mhm,
and to love on them and to say, yes, this is a part of me, and the way that I continue to heal that part of me is to speak to it, to allow her to be seen, to be present, allow her to ask for what she needs from the people she needs it from, and to trust that she'll receive it and
mhm,
that she is it, and that's why she will receive it. So absolutely, I still do that, and I know that as long as I am breathing this air as this human being, this spirit inside of this human body, I likely will do that in the future. And I feel like I feel in this moment really proud of myself to be able to say that, because there was a time when I would be like, no,
yeah.
but yeah, yeah, I do.
Um, do you feel like with this journey with your dad,
Yeah.
do you like when you started going in and loving yourself in those places or like paying attention to the feeling, um, and noticing that the boundary was putting a separation between you and your dad, like how did that change your relationship with him, or did it?
Oh, it absolutely did. When I finally opened up and got vulnerable with my dad, among a ton of other things that he said to me, I just didn't realize that. And so one of the things he said was, he's like, please, let's keep talking.
Mm,
Like, please keep talking to me. Like, let's keep this type of conversation open. Um, and it has been, it's like it's a point now where I can call up my dad and say, or send him a text and say, Dad, you got a sec? Or just pick up the phone and call my dad and talk to him. And we'd always been close, like very, very close. I was daddy's girl. as a child. And then after my parents divorced at a time during my formative years, that changed. And so it's almost like we're coming back around full circle because I'm able to show up as that little girl again who needs her dad
Yeah.
and can say, "Hey, daddy, dad, I need you."
That's a big deal because I feel like when we
Yeah.
are setting boundaries like that, like for me with my mom, like I would not let myself need her.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
it's like hell no. But the
Mm,
thing is that that need doesn't go away. You're just suppressing it. And so when you can actually access yourself in that space and love yourself there and accept yourself, that the fact that you need that, because I think that what happens is like, well, we don't want to need them because they're just going to hurt us. As soon as I let myself need them, then I'm being weak, right?
mhm,
Um, I'm going to get hurt again by whatever they did. But that's not necessarily the case because it's like you're accepting yourself there. So when that happens, and it is a feeling experience. So even saying this and listening to it might not even make sense until you actually let yourself feel yourself there. Because if you're loving yourself there, the feeling experience is that you're loved. So
mhm,
essentially, like your parent or whoever it is can do and say these things or whatever that's happened. And as long as you're there with you, then the feeling experience is that you're loved. And so
absolutely.
yeah, and so like the experience changes regardless. And it's not to say that they're going to change and be different. That did happen in my experience. My mom, like my relationship with her has completely changed for the better. But because there are instances where people say, well, what if it's dangerous, you want to keep boundaries. Sure, like you keep those boundaries and say yes and no when you need to. But the bigger, like the important part of this experience is what you're doing to yourself on the inside. Are
Mhm,
you loving that feeling that's hurting?
mhm,
Are you accepting yourself there? And that's what's going to shift your outside reality. Not necessarily like keep saying no to somebody, keep hurting yourself and stay there. Like it's more the shift is going to happen when you love and accept yourself as deeply as you can and just keep going.
mhm.
That's what's been happening for me. And
That's
that's really
lovely.
why I wanted to talk about this with you, because I feel like I want this conversation to keep growing and be out there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you said something, you don't gosh, what did you say? You didn't want to need her, but then you also said you felt like need made you feel weak. And that is something that I'm still healing. I'm pushing through that because growing up, like I was always the kid that was like, oh, Lisa's the strong one, you
Yeah.
know, Lisa's peculiar, but she's the strong one. And it's like when you are constantly you hear that over and over again, you take on that persona. You're like, well,
Yeah.
I'm the strong one. So
That was
I don't
me.
need
Like
yeah.
it's
You're
always
like, I don't need
I
to
want to protect my
need.
brother. Like I want
Yeah.
to be strong and like defend everyone against him. Like actually the relationship with my brother has taught me a lot because I was put in this actually like I heard him one night just in my head because we that
Yeah.
happens. I heard him say like I need my sister. And I was
Mhm.
thinking like need me, why do you need me, and then of course I was brought to this super like vulnerable place and I got super emotional and I started remembering having these memories of the two of us when we were little and we would spoon and sleep together and just cuddle, and I realized I needed him then.
Mhm.
I needed him, but I needed him in that abundant place. I was
Mhm.
already full of his love. I was full of love. I
Mhm.
wasn't needing him in a lack place. So it's
Mhm.
like when you say the word need, when you're already in separation or lack, or, it becomes a different word. But when you're in that love and abundance, the word need actually changes.
Mhm.
And that taught me that. And I was like, oh my God, like
Mhm.
I do need him. I do need her. I do need this. It changed it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it was just like, it's okay to soften. Like, not that I just carried this hard exterior. I
Often is
didn't.
the word
I
though.
didn't, but there was something inside of me that was just very, there's nothing wrong with being independent, but when I say like just hyper independent,
Yeah.
um, because I never wanted to need anybody. Like, yeah, I want you, but I don't need you. That was always my mantra. It's like, yeah, I want people, but I don't need them.
Yeah.
I want a relationship with my dad, but I guess I don't need it. But it's BS. It's not true.
Mhm.
It's the hurt that's talking. I would say the pain, but it's the hurt that's talking. Um, and that's a way that we protect ourselves. It's a way that we sort of push that into the dark closet and close the door on it. Like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Not realizing that it's really literally like driving every choice that we make
Yeah.
in life. The things
Yeah.
that we don't deal with run run and power our choices in the background subconsciously. So yeah, like mending or healing my relationship with need has been huge
Yeah.
in terms of me being able to set healthy boundaries.
It's true because when you're setting boundaries from that place of hurt, really, it's just like a running experience. It's like you're protecting yourself, but really you're protecting yourself from being loved. Like, how
Hmm.
can you be loved if you're continually, continuously pushing people
One of
away?
those two.
Can one of
Continuous.
putting pushing people away and like not realizing or being aware of what you're doing to yourself.
Yeah.
No, it's like that awareness is so important. And then when you start paying attention to that feeling inside of you and what's happening and
Mhm.
making that the focus rather than like what that person's doing, what they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. How do you feel right now? How does that feel in you right now? And what are you going to do about it? And are you going to keep protecting yourself from feelings that you don't want to feel? Or can you accept yourself there instead and see what happens?
Yeah, you said the R word, making other people responsible. I just I wrote that down. Like, yeah, responsible. Because there's a lot of that, right? There's a lot of making other people responsible for how we feel. Like, oh, he did this, so now I feel this way. She did this, and now I feel this way. And it's like, well, that person didn't create that feeling in you. That feeling was already there.
Yeah.
They just brought it to light.
Mhm.
um so I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about like just people being accountable for ourselves, not just our reactions, but for the feelings.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be accountable for the feelings that feel icky.
Yeah.
We'll own the ones that feel, light and joyful, but the icky feelings, we're like, no, you did that. That's
Yeah.
yours. You
That's
brought that.
yeah. Like meanwhile, it's still happening inside of
Yep.
you.
Yep.
So what are you gonna do about that? What are you gonna do
Right.
with that? You know?
Exactly. Well, you can't do anything with it if you don't own it,
No,
right? You won't do anything with it because it's not yours. The
yeah,
other person brought it. So
exactly.
I'm gonna give it back to them.
Exactly. And when did that like
Right.
well, I tried that for 34 years. It's only the last two where I'm like, oh, that's not working.
Right.
I'm gonna block them out and they'll pay. It's like they don't,
It's like
I'm the
you're
one
the one paying and
like
suffering.
it's like how long am I gonna do that for,
Right,
and
right.
weighed down by that. And then it's like you think, oh well, once I let them in, once I forgive them, then they'll just do that again. But things change because you change
You change.
inside.
Yeah,
And then when you're able to accept yourself in those feelings and the feelings that come, you're there for yourself and you're allowing that. And when I say accept and allow, I just want to be clear. I don't mean like, oh, that sucks and I'll just deal with it. Acceptance is again another feeling experience of allowing the feeling to be what it is without judgment, and accepting yourself there and loving yourself there. So
Yeah.
it's not like oh, I'll just deal with it and keep it happening. It's there's definitely a difference there.
Yeah, for sure. Hmm.
Any last things you want to add to this? um
Man, it's such a big
It
topic,
is a huge, like, I feel like we could keep going and do, like, multiple videos
series
on
on this.
it. Yeah.
Man. So what do you think? How do we help people heal this in themselves? You know, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Psychologist, even coaches,
Mm,
everyone's talking about setting boundaries, healthy boundaries. Oh, this happened because you lack boundaries.
mm.
But it's never about internal boundaries. It's
Mhm.
about other people. Like, how do we take this focus off of other people and put it back onto ourselves?
Yeah. And this is what I do in my sessions, in my one-on-one session, is that's where I want to focus. Is it's like, for me, I keep saying it's kind of like taking a microscope and going into the cells of where this is actually happening internally, because it's almost like I want to I want to heal with people in almost like showing how to feel these things. Like, I don't even know if I'm saying it the right way, but like it's almost like there needs to be a guidebook or something on how to, right? Like what, and that's what I'm going deep into when I do this work.
Mhm.
But yeah, like how can we do this together and heal is like the biggest thing in my main focus. Um,
How do you get people to feel? How do you get people out of their heads and into their soma so they can feel again?
For me, because I can, like, I can feel people that I'm connected to. I try to show them, did you feel that when you said that? A lot of
Mhm.
people say, no, I don't feel anything. And I was like that too. But it's like, then, okay, close your eyes. What's
Mhm.
going on in your body? And first of all, it comes out as like words, that we commonly describe things. And I'm like, take those words away. Now, if you can describe it in the most abstract way, like what does your body feel like? And I feel like even just doing that kind of, it's like it brings your attention there that you didn't notice before. And in the beginning, it's so subtle. Sometimes it's like you don't even notice it, but it
Mhm.
does get stronger the more you pay attention. So if we can just bring our focus and notice when these things are happening, you know,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think I think for me, there's so much noise, we can't feel ourselves because we're so tapped into everything else that's going on around us.
yeah,
We can't hear our intuition because we're just flooding our senses with everybody else's voice, everybody else's thoughts. Um, so, like what you said about asking people when they respond, did you feel that? Um, Also, I like the idea of like using really abstract words, tapping into colors, like feelings as color.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm kind of like sort of
It's a different world.
it
It,
really is. It
it's a
really is.
world. Yeah,
The biggest thing for me was just getting quiet,
yeah,
sitting still and getting quiet and just learning to be with myself.
yeah,
And as feelings come up, really connecting to my body. I journal a lot, and so when I'm having a certain feeling, I'm tapping into the sensation of that feeling and where it's showing up in me.
Yeah.
So as I'm walking throughout life, going about my day to day, when that sensation, because I may not be consciously aware of what of the feeling, because the mind is like, ah,
Yeah.
but
What is
when that
that? What is going on?
right, when that sensation bubbles up though, I'm like, oh, there's that swirling in my stomach.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, so that's the feeling that's trying to come through that my mind is trying to override. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's the feeling. Connect to that feeling.
That's
Um,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, like that's been really powerful for me. Um, it's also something that I incorporate into, into my coaching practice.
Mhm.
And I find that one of the most challenging things is just being still and getting quiet. And by quiet, I don't mean talking, but quiet inside
Yeah.
so that you actually can feel. Because there's really no manual. There's no way to teach people how to feel, which is it's
No.
such a weird thing to say, right? Because that's the core of who we are. We're feeling
Exactly. It's
beings.
almost more like unlearning how to
Uh,
unlearning this
unlearning how to think,
talking.
unlearning thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. But well, we can wrap it up there, even though I feel like I could talk about this with you for hours.
I know, I know. I feel like we need like these moments to sort of sit in the feeling,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is why I'm pausing. I'm like, hmm,
Good. Yeah.
hmm. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Aw.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Of
I
course.
always love talking with you. And yeah, these are really big, important topics. And I just really appreciate your viewpoint and what you have to offer and input into healing and all of this. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for you. So thank
Oh,
you.
back at you, Amy. I'm grateful for you as well. Man, this really, really, really appreciate you so
Uh,
much. So,
Thank you. All right. Well, I'll see you soon.
all right, we'll chat again soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.